Hi there, it's Whitney Durmick. When I tell people I work for Oracle for Startups, usually their response is, who? And I get it. Oracle has not historically been known for catering to smaller businesses. We are an enterprise leader after all. But with the momentum of Oracle Cloud infrastructure and emerging technology like blockchain and Kubernetes, plus awesome partnerships with firms like NVIDIA and Microsoft, it's time that startups take a second look at Oracle, and specifically Oracle for Startups. Today, I'm joined by the VP of Oracle for Startups and Oracle for Research, Jason Williamson, who is here to explain how Oracle for Startups works like a startup to help startups around the world. Hi, Jason.
Hey, how you doing, Whitney?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. We're holding on to the last bit of fall weather here, so I'm gonna try to take it in before it gets too cold.
I hear you. And then you'll get to pivot into the winter.
Exactly. Nice, but indeed.
So in keeping with the message of a pivot, how has Oracle for Startups had to pivot with all of the changes and the dynamic environment of 2020?
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of them was serendipitous. You know, I like to take credit for it, but I can't. So probably about a year and a half ago, we did some experimentation with how we reach startups. So just to give you a little history, we've been around, Whitney, we've been around doing this for three or 4 years now. And the way that we've delivered this has changed over the years. You know, when we started the program, we did a very traditional approach to accelerators. And then we ran a small experiment on like, how do we do this in a virtual way so we can kind of cast a wider net? And we're like, oh, will people do it? Like, yeah, we will. And we got some great startups from different regions around the world. And so when we went to spend some time with Larry to say, hey, here's our direction, and he really challenged us to go all that way, we totally pivoted from what I would call a residential approach where somebody would sit in a desk for 6 months to in a very highly selective way to let everybody in anywhere they are. And then the second thing I think has been a cultural shift. So one of the things, I mean, Whitney, you were a part of this, was like how do startups connect with each other? And with COVID, we've lost like that ability to collaborate. Like humans were meant to like see each other's face and touch each other and be together. And with that, like gone with it was the community that went alongside of it. So startups, they spend time together, even if they're not in the same business, especially if they're not. So that was some of the pivots we've done, is like, how do we actually, instead of being in community, how can we create community? So we've experimented with that. Like we put some small groups together with founders from all around the world, where they get together on a regular basis to connect on like what kind of challenges they have and what are the ups, what are the downs. And then we'll have like books that we're reading together and speakers that we bring in. So we are having to pivot and experiment. With the way I like to say it though, is we hold our vision and our values very tightly, but we hold our methods of execution loosely, as we respond to the market, as we respond to how we hear from our customers and how the environment pressures change. So we have to move super quick, very dynamic within Oracle. So yeah, absolutely. I would say we're a startup within Oracle. And that's been a huge part of why we've been able to get things done. So
we have thrown a lot of spaghetti against the wall to see what is stuck in 2020.
Totally. Yep, yeah, absolutely.
I love what you said about community being so important for entrepreneurs, because we were creating that with these hubs. But what we've noticed with having things like our ambassador network and our mentor network is we can continue to support these hubs, the rise of the rest that we talk about. We can continue to support these markets, but do it at scale.
Right. That's the balance, is like, how do you do? Because before you really couldn't scale like a co-working space with 5 people every 6 months, but then we realized, well, maybe we can apply a hybrid vision of that to a particular region. And so those are some of the things we're going to experiment on, in this era and probably post-COVID, is like, how do we take what was good about a co-working space and take what we've learned from virtual and do that in a hybrid kind of way. So I'm giving you a little sneak peek, but I think that's where we're going to see ourselves maybe iterate a little bit more in the future.
Right. So we were a little bit ahead of the turn with approaching this from a virtual perspective, in what other ways are we supporting startups at scale?
So when we think about what it means to support a startup, there's a lot of texture and dimensions to that. So how we do that at scale depends on kind of the category and buckets you're in. So some startups come to us because they're like, we love enterprise secure cloud at a low price per performance. And so support for them is kind of technical and community based and focused on the things that they do. So when a startup joins the program, they get a very special kind of pathway. So they come into a private portal that is a community of a bunch of other startups that also has the attention of our engineering team on our team, so that they can support them like technically and give them like patterns for building things. They give them access to free migration, because like everybody's got to migrate, at this stage for us right now. So like, that's just table stakes. So let's get you off. So like that's an area of support. So another bucket of support is kind of on the business side of the house. So like getting mentors within Oracle. It's like, we have a huge community within Oracle. It's like, hey, can we join your team? And we're like, kind of. So like, come be a mentor. Like, we'll partner you with a startup on like sales strategy, on scale strategy, on like, how do I do pricing, stuff like that. And then so the another bucket of support is actually, which I think is as Larry likes to say, our unfair advantage, is like, how do they navigate Oracle for access to Oracle customers? So once you've kind of come in and done interesting things, as I like to say, like you built stuff on Oracle, you prove you have a cool product, you have something demonstratable that our customer base wants, like, let's go do that together. And so that support is kind of, I would call like amplification. And so that's like co-marketing, amplifying you on social, bringing you to events when we used to, and then actually, carrying a bag with you into a customer so that you can hit the enterprise. So, I mean, that's just a few things. We have more, but like, those are ways that we support our startups in these efforts. So,
Absolutely. And the fact that we are supporting the technology as well as the business, because the startups that come to us often have different needs. And we have this massive team, not only our global dedicated startup team, but we also have these mentors. I'm glad you brought them up, who, when we talk about Oracle, our 120,000 closest friends across the world, we're talking about sales experts, product experts, people who have, like yourself, started and sold or started and exited a startup. So
yeah.
This vast collection of expertise that we can then rally around startup success.
For sure. I mean, it's, some of our message to the community is like, look, you can benefit by engaging startup. You can benefit by engaging Oracle well. It's a shared responsibility model. Therefore, we must allow them and help them and give them tools to engage us well. So it's not like oracle.com, good luck, right? And so those are the things that we try to do, is like, how do you navigate this organization? Because it's not trivial. And so, that's what we try to do, is help make that a good balance and find the best startups and plug them into the best opportunities. Right. So for sure.
Helping to be the Sherpa of the Oracle.
That's right. Startup Sherpa.
Yes.
That's got to be.
So okay. I saw an interview with you just now on Crunchbase where you were advising startups to be patient.
Yeah.
I think patience is so key right
now. Wow. Okay. So there's a couple of reasons for that. One, founders tend to be like, I got to be first to market. I got to get out there. And then like, for me, that's where I made a ton of mistakes. Like, if you've got a good idea today, it's still going to be a good idea tomorrow. Like, don't just, and this is not about shipping an MVP. This is about like making sure you engage the right agreement, making sure you take the right money, making sure you actually sell to the right customer. Because, I did everything wrong a lot, which is like, oh, I'm going to sell to this firm because I'm going to get revenue. Like, well, that was a terrible idea because they got me off focus from my core product, right? So be patient, like sell to the right group. And so I think that just kind of comes with maturity. But that's one of those things, like a founder really, really needs to be patient to make, but patient quickly. We used to have this saying in the military, is like, slow is quick, quick is, right? And so it sounds really weird, but you've got to be very focused and patient and then be ready to move very quickly.
Yep. Focus and flexibility are so important for
yes.
startups and humans as we navigate a troubling year. Jason, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciated having you on.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
And if you want to know more about Oracle for startups, and I highly recommend you do, it's going to be oracle.com/startup. We'll see you there.